All right, so you're getting ready for those junior accountant interviews. Big step, right?
Yeah, big time.
We're here to help you feel totally ready for those tough questions. So we've got this resource guide. It has 20 common interview questions and answers. But it's not just about memorizing answers.
Right.
This guide really digs into the why behind the answers to give you the confidence to really impress those
Mhm.
hiring managers.
What I think is really interesting about this guide is that it highlights that it's not just your technical skills,
Yeah.
but it's also your soft skills and how you approach problem solving. I mean, those are
Yeah.
crucial for any junior accountant role.
Exactly. And let's be real, some of those technical questions can be tricky. How do you explain double entry bookkeeping to somebody who has never even heard of debits and credits? Or
Right.
what about navigating discrepancies
Yeah.
between bank records and those internal ledgers? The kind of stuff that makes your eyes glaze over.
Yeah. Right.
So that you can, don't worry, we're going to break it all down.
Okay, good. First things first. This guide really emphasizes how important it is to be comfortable with accounting software. So things like QuickBooks, Xero, Sage 50, these are the tools that you'll likely be using daily.
Okay, so I've dabbled in QuickBooks, but what if I haven't used one of the specific programs that they mentioned? Should I just be upfront about that?
Yeah, honesty is always a good policy. But what's even more important is showcasing your adaptability and your willingness to learn new systems quickly. Hiring managers look for that can-do attitude.
That makes sense. It's not always about having the exact experience, but just showing that you're eager to jump in and learn.
Exactly. And speaking of learning, the guide also dives into financial statements and reports. It's not just about preparing them accurately, but also being able to analyze and interpret that data.
So being able to explain what those numbers actually mean, not just plugging them in.
Right. You're helping management to make informed decisions. So let's say you spot a significant increase in operating expenses in a certain department. You wouldn't just flag it. You would dig deeper to understand why that's happening and what it means for the company's overall financial health.
That's where those analytical skills really come into play. This reminds me of something I've always wondered. When they ask about preparing reports in past roles, can I talk about projects from internships or even student organizations?
Absolutely. Any relevant experience where you've demonstrated your understanding
Yeah.
of financial reporting is valuable, even if it wasn't a formal accounting role. You just want to focus on the skills you used and the results that you achieved. Did you identify any cost-saving opportunities? Did you streamline a process to improve efficiency? Those are the kinds of things that will impress a hiring manager.
Great point. Okay, so we've talked about software and financial statements. What else should I be prepared for?
Well, the guide stresses the need for meticulousness when it comes to data entry. I know it sounds basic, but even a small typo can have major consequences in accounting.
Oh, I know. I remember in one of my accounting classes, we had to do this massive spreadsheet project. I spent hours on it, only to realize I had entered one number wrong early on. Talk about a frustrating lesson in attention to detail.
Oh, yeah. That's why double-checking your work is crucial. So compare your entries to source documents. Utilize any error-catching tools your software offers. And don't be afraid to ask a colleague for a second set of eyes.
That's a good reminder. It's better to be safe than sorry, especially when you're dealing with financial data. Okay, now for the million-dollar question. How do I explain double entry bookkeeping in a way that doesn't make people's eyes glaze over?
It's a challenge, but it's all about finding the right analogy. So instead of just talking about debits and credit, think of it like buying office supplies. You're spending money, credit from your bank account, and in return you receive supplies, debit for your business. Both sides of the equation need to balance.
Okay, that actually makes sense. I'll have to remember that one. So what about spreadsheets? I know Excel is the holy grail of accounting, right?
It's definitely a crucial tool, and being able to demonstrate proficiency and advanced Excel functions like pivot tables can really set you apart. So let's say you have a massive data set with thousands of transactions. A pivot table allows you to quickly summarize and analyze that data in seconds. It's like having a superpower.
Wow. I've dabbled in pivot tables, but I definitely need to brush up on those. So data analysis is key. But what about presenting that information? Sometimes I feel like I get lost in the numbers.
That's where data visualization comes in. It's not just about crunching the numbers. It's about presenting your findings in a way that is clear and concise and visually appealing. Imagine you're presenting a complex financial analysis to management. Instead of just showing them rows and rows of numbers, you create a dynamic dashboard with charts and graphs that highlight key trends and insights.
That's much more engaging. It's about telling a story with the data. Okay, so we've covered software, financial statements, data entry, even explaining those tricky concepts. Anything else I should be thinking about as I
Well,
prep for these interviews?
well, let's talk about the fast-paced nature of accounting. You'll be juggling multiple tasks, deadlines, and requests. So
Yeah.
strong organizational skills are essential. This guide suggests using tools like to-do lists, calendars, reminders, templates, and checklists to help you stay on track.
I am a big fan of checklists. It's so satisfying to tick things off as you go.
Right. It's a great way to ensure that nothing falls through the cracks. And speaking of managing multiple things, let's talk about prioritization. How do you determine what needs to be done first?
Sure.
When you have a million things on your plate, that's where a prioritization matrix can be helpful. You use it to assess the urgency and importance of each task, so you can focus on what truly needs your attention first. And don't be afraid to delegate tasks when appropriate. It's not about doing everything yourself. It's about using your time and resources effectively.
Delegation is a skill I'm definitely working on. It's hard to let go sometimes, but I know it's important. Now, let's be honest. Sometimes explaining complex financial information feels like I'm speaking a different language. How do I bridge that gap?
Communication is key in accounting. It's not enough to just understand the numbers. You need to be able to explain them in a way that anyone can understand. So think about your audience and tailor your communication style accordingly. Use clear language, avoid jargon, and provide real-life examples to illustrate your points.
That's a great reminder. Sometimes I get so caught up in the technical details that I forget to step back and explain things in a way that resonates with people who don't live and breathe accounting.
And don't underestimate the power of storytelling. People are more likely to remember information if it's presented in a way that's engaging and relatable. So instead of just reciting facts and figures, try weaving them into a story that highlights the key takeaways.
Okay, back to the nitty-gritty. Let's say I'm reconciling bank records and internal ledgers and something's off. Discrepancies happen, right? How do I tackle that?
First, don't panic. It's more common than you think. This guide outlines a step-by-step approach to discrepancy resolution. Start by double-checking your entries and comparing them to your bank statements. Look for things like transposed numbers, missing transactions, or incorrect coding.
So it's like being a financial detective, searching for clues to solve the mystery.
Exactly. And documentation is key. Keep a detailed record of your findings and the steps you took to resolve the discrepancy. This not only helps you stay organized, but it also provides an audit trail in case questions arise later.
That makes sense. It's all about having that paper trail. Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about cost reduction strategies. I know businesses are always looking for ways to save money, especially in today's economy.
Absolutely. And this guide provides some valuable insights into identifying cost-saving opportunities. It starts with analyzing financial trends. Are certain expenses increasing at a faster rate than others? Is there a pattern to these increases? This can help you pinpoint areas to investigate further.
So it's not just about cutting costs randomly. It's about being strategic and data-driven.
Exactly. You also want to research industry best practices. What are other companies in your sector doing to manage expenses effectively? Are there any innovative approaches you can adapt for your own organization?
That's a great point. It's about learning from others and seeing what works.
Right. And don't overlook the potential of process improvement. Are there any processes that are inefficient or redundant? Can you streamline workflows to reduce waste and improve productivity? These are all opportunities to save money without sacrificing quality.
It sounds like finding cost-saving opportunities is a combination of creativity and analytical thinking. You have to be able to think outside the box and crunch the numbers to see what makes the most sense.
Exactly. And one of my favorite parts of this guide is how it emphasizes the importance of being proactive. Don't just wait for problems to arise. Anticipate challenges and propose solutions.
That's a great mindset to have. It shows you're not just a task doer, but a problem solver. Okay, so we've talked about cutting costs, but what about planning for the future? Let's move on to budgeting and forecasting.
This is where your analytical skills and your understanding of the business really come into play. Budgeting involves setting financial goals for a specific period, usually a year. Forecasting, on the other hand, is about predicting future financial performance based on historical data, current trends, and any anticipated changes in the market or the business environment.
So budgeting is like creating a roadmap for the year, and forecasting is like checking your GPS along the way to see if you need to adjust your course.
That's a great analogy. And both require a thorough understanding of the organization's operations, its financial goals, and the factors that can impact its performance.
It sounds like a balancing act, You're looking back at historical data, analyzing current trends, and projecting future performance all at the same time.
It is. And it's an area where junior accountants can really contribute by bringing a fresh perspective and a willingness to ask questions.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here. From software to financial statements, data entry to cost reduction strategies. But before we move on to part 2 of our deep dive, let's pause here for a moment and let you, our listener, digest all this information.
We encourage you to think about your own experiences and how these concepts relate to the roles you're applying for. As you prepare for those interviews, remember confidence is key. You've got this.
Welcome back. We're diving deeper into this awesome resource guide to help you ace those junior accountant interviews.
I hope you had a chance to think about some of your own experiences and how some of the things we discussed in the last part apply to your career goals.
Right. In that first part, we covered a lot of ground, from software to financial statements, data entry to cost-saving strategies. Now let's kind of shift gears and explore some other key areas that will help you shine in those interviews.
Sounds good. This guide also touches on the importance of understanding internal controls. And you might be wondering why that's important for a junior accountant.
Yeah. When I hear internal controls, I think about things like security systems and surveillance cameras. What does that have to do with accounting?
Internal controls in accounting are all about safeguarding a company's assets and ensuring the accuracy and reliability of financial information. So think of it as a system of checks and balances that are designed to prevent errors, fraud, and other financial mishaps.
Okay. So it's more about like procedures and protocols than physical security.
Exactly. For example, one common internal control is the separation of duties. This means that different people are responsible for different parts of a financial transaction. So one person might approve an invoice, while another person records the payment. This helps prevent any one individual from having too much control over the process, which reduces the risk of errors or fraud.
That makes a lot of sense. So how can I demonstrate my understanding of internal controls? In an interview,
You can talk about your experience in following established procedures, your attention to detail, and your commitment to accuracy. You can also mention any coursework or training you had in internal controls, even if you haven't had direct experience. In implementing these controls, just showing that you understand their importance and are eager to learn more can go a long way.
great tips. Now, this guide also mentions the impact of globalization on accounting. I can see why that's relevant as more and more businesses operate internationally.
Absolutely. It's becoming increasingly important for accountants to be comfortable working with different currencies and understanding the complexities of international transactions.
So I might encounter questions about foreign exchange rates or international accounting standards.
Exactly. Imagine a scenario where your company is importing goods from a supplier in Europe. You need to understand how to convert the invoice amount from euros to your local currency using the current exchange rate.
I see. So it's about more than just converting currencies. It's about understanding the whole process and how it affects the financial statements.
Right. And don't forget about the tax implications of international transactions. Tax laws can vary significantly from country to country, so it's crucial to stay informed and seek expert advice when dealing with cross-border transactions.
It sounds like a whole new layer of complexity.
It can be,
Mhm.
but it also presents exciting opportunities to learn new skills and gain exposure to different business practices.
Okay, let's switch gears again and talk about a topic that can be daunting for anyone in the accounting field: staying up to date. With changes in tax laws and regulations, it feels like those rules are constantly changing.
They are. Tax laws are complex and constantly evolving, but staying informed is absolutely essential for ensuring accuracy and compliance.
So how can I stay on top of all these changes without getting overwhelmed?
This guide recommends several strategies. You can subscribe to industry newsletters or journals that provide updates on tax legislation. Attending webinars or conferences can be a great way to learn from experts and network with other professionals.
And joining professional organizations like the American Institute of CPAs, the AICPA, can provide access to resources and continuing education opportunities.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of simply setting aside time each week to read industry news and research relevant tax updates. It doesn't have to be hours and hours. Even 30 minutes a week can make a difference in staying informed.
Those are all great tips. Now let's circle back to a topic we touched on earlier: prioritization and managing competing deadlines. This seems like a crucial skill for any junior accountant, especially when you're juggling multiple tasks and projects.
Absolutely. This guide offers some practical tips for staying organized and managing your time effectively. One technique is to create a prioritization matrix. This involves listing all your tasks and then ranking them based on their urgency and importance.
So I'd focus on those tasks that are both urgent and important.
Those are the ones. They need your immediate attention. Tasks that are important but not urgent can be scheduled for later.
That makes sense. But what about those tasks that are urgent but not important? Do those even exist?
They do. Think about those unexpected requests that pop up throughout the day, like answering emails or attending unscheduled meetings. While these tasks may seem urgent, they might not be critical to your overall goals.
So it's about learning to differentiate between true urgency
Oh,
and perceived urgency.
exactly. And don't be afraid to delegate tasks when appropriate. This can free up your time to focus on those high priority items.
And speaking of doing the right thing, let's talk about compliance with laws and regulations. It's not just about following the rules, it's about understanding why those rules exist and how they protect both the company and its stakeholders.
Absolutely. Ethical conduct is paramount in accounting. This guide emphasizes the importance of understanding the rationale behind accounting standards and guidelines. It's about maintaining the integrity of financial information and upholding the public trust.
It's about doing what's right, even when no one is watching.
Exactly. And remember, if you're ever unsure about the ethical implications of a situation, don't hesitate to seek guidance from a supervisor, a mentor, or a professional organization.
Okay, now let's dive a bit deeper into internal control development. We talked about why it's important, but what are like the specific steps involved in actually creating and implementing these safeguards?
This guide outlines a process that involves identifying potential risks, assessing the likelihood and impact of those risks, and then designing and implementing controls to mitigate those risks. It's a proactive approach to preventing problems before they occur.
So it's kind of like a risk assessment for the company's finances?
Exactly. Let's say you're working for a retail company. One potential risk might be theft of inventory.
Yeah, I can see how that would be a major problem.
Right. To mitigate this risk, the company might implement internal controls such as security cameras, inventory tracking systems, and regular physical inventory counts.
That makes sense. It's about putting safeguards in place at every level.
Right. And it's an area where junior accountants can play a valuable role. You can bring a fresh perspective and a keen eye for detail to help identify potential weaknesses in internal controls and suggest improvements.
So even though I'm just starting out in my career, I can still make a contribution to the company's financial health.
Absolutely. Your attention to detail and your willingness to ask questions can be invaluable in identifying and addressing potential risks.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this part, from internal controls to globalization, tax updates to ethical conduct. Before we wrap up part 2, let's take a moment to revisit that question about the essential qualities of a successful accountant.
This guide emphasizes the importance of accuracy, organization, problem-solving skills, strong communication, and a commitment to ethical conduct. These are the foundational elements that will serve you well throughout your accounting career.
It's a great reminder that success in accounting is about more than just crunching numbers. It's about being a well-rounded professional who can think critically, communicate effectively, and uphold the highest ethical standards.
And remember, these qualities can be developed and honed over time. It's a journey of continuous learning and growth.
Now, before we move on to the final part of our deep dive, let's leave you with another thought-provoking question to ponder. We've talked about the importance of staying informed, about new developments in the accounting profession. But what are some of the most exciting or transformative trends that you see shaping the future of accounting? Think about the impact of technologies like artificial intelligence, blockchain, and cloud computing. How will these innovations change the way accountants work and the skills they need to succeed? We'll explore these ideas further in part 3. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into acing those junior accountant interviews. I hope you've had some time to think about how technology is shaping the future of the accounting profession.
It's an exciting time to be entering this field. Technologies like AI, blockchain, and cloud computing are changing the way accountants work and the skills they need to succeed.
Yeah, it can feel a bit overwhelming, though, keeping up with all these advancements on top of everything else we've discussed.
Absolutely. And that's why this guide stresses the importance of continuous learning. It's not just about mastering the fundamentals, but also about staying curious and adapting to new tools and technologies as they emerge.
So how can somebody just starting out in their career like stay ahead of the curve? Are there specific resources or strategies that you recommend?
There are tons of resources available. Joining professional organizations like the AICPA or your state's CPA society can give you access to webinars, conferences, and publications that keep you informed about industry trends.
Okay. And what about online learning platforms like Coursera or Udemy? Are those worthwhile?
They can be fantastic for exploring new technologies and developing specific skills, especially in areas like data analytics or cloud accounting. Many of these platforms offer courses that are specifically designed for accounting professionals.
Okay, so we've got professional organizations and online courses. What else?
Yeah. Don't underestimate the value of networking. Attending industry events or connecting with experienced professionals on LinkedIn can give you insights into how technology is being applied in real-world settings.
Mm-hmm. And finding a mentor who can guide you and share their expertise is invaluable.
Absolutely. Mentorship can provide you with personalized advice and support as you navigate your career path.
This guide also emphasizes the importance of reflecting on your strengths and aspirations. That makes sense. Especially when you consider all these different career paths within accounting.
Right. Do you see yourself thriving in like a traditional auditing role? Or are you drawn to the fast-paced world of financial technology? Are you passionate about sustainability reporting or forensic accounting? Taking the time to identify what truly interests you can help you focus your career goals and seek out opportunities that align with your passions.
It's about finding the right fit for your personality and your skill set.
Exactly. And remember, your career is a journey, not a destination. Be open to new experiences, embrace challenges, and never stop learning. The accounting profession is dynamic and constantly evolving, which makes it both challenging and exciting.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from technical skills to soft skills, from practical tips to big picture trends shaping the future of the profession.
Definitely.
We've explored how to showcase your knowledge of accounting software, analyze financial statements, ensure data accuracy, and even explain complex concepts in a way that anyone can understand. We've talked about the importance of organization, prioritization, and communication, as well as the ethical considerations that guide every decision an accountant makes. And we've touched on how technology is transforming the profession and the skills you'll need to thrive in this dynamic landscape.
There's a lot to take in.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's leave you with a few key takeaways to remember as you prepare for those junior accountant interviews. First and foremost, showcase your passion for accounting. Let your enthusiasm shine through.
Highlight your technical skills, your eagerness to learn, and your ability to adapt to new challenges.
Don't be afraid to ask questions and show that you're curious and engaged.
And remember to emphasize those all-important soft skills: communication, collaboration, problem solving, and a commitment to ethical conduct.
We hope this deep dive has given you the insights and confidence you need to ace those interviews and launch your accounting career.
Remember, you've got this. Best of luck on your journey, future accounting superstars.